Some of you watching this video right now have been waiting for it to drop for a while now, and the others of you just understand how close fantasy football games can be and how much a kicker can really make a difference in fantasy football. So you're trying to maximize every single point because you understand every point counts. And I'm happy to say this is the first 2024 fantasy football kicker rankings that I will do on this channel, and I will go through them once a week during the fantasy football season. So we're getting into the top 12 right now, and I will give away 5 free FFN hats next week if I hit 11,000 subscribers by Wednesday, August 21st. And the way you get a chance to win one is to go down there, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and give me your favorite fantasy defense sleeper for 2024. So please go down there, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and give me your favorite fantasy football defense that is a sleeper for 2024. So the first thing that I want to just address with kickers first is that a lot of times what I see with kickers in particular, people associate the top scoring and the top offenses in the league with getting a good fantasy football kicker. And yes, sometimes this is the case, but as you can see right now on the screen, these are the top 5 scoring offenses right here, and the only kickers that were inside of the top 12 last year, inside of top 5 offense, was the Dallas Cowboys kicker, Brandon Aubrey, and the Miami Dolphins kicker, Jason Sanders. And Brandon Aubrey was the kicker number 1, but Jason Sanders was only kicker number 11. So oftentimes, that is just a misconception with kickers. What we need to find here with fantasy football kickers is, yes, they need to have a good offense, but just good enough to get them in field goal position so they can maximize their points by kicking a 40-yarder or a 50-yarder. So they need an offense just good enough, but not good enough to get into the end zone. So starting out with that in mind, we're going to go with Justin Tucker at number 1. And of course, Justin Tucker is a Hall of Fame kicker if I've ever seen one. And yes, his offense is very, very efficient. But the good thing about Justin Tucker is he's got such a freaking long leg that they can put him out there like 50, 55, 60 yards and have full confidence that he's going to make it. Last year was actually one of his worst, most inaccurate years. Kicked 37 field goal attempts and only made 32. But again, kicking 37 field goals, you want to be anywhere in that upper 30s range to about 40s range when it comes to fantasy football kickers. So we know he's going to get the volume. We know he's going to get the great benefits of having a good offense behind him and getting him into position. And as far as I can tell, dude's still got a pretty good leg. So as long as he cleans up some accuracy this year, he's going to be number 1. And at number 2, I've got Brandon Aubrey of the Dallas Cowboys. So Brandon Aubrey's first season with Dallas ended up being really good. Dude was almost perfect. 36 out of 38 field goals made. Also made a 60-yard long field goal and missed only 2 extra points. So dude was almost perfect, right? And the thing that I like about Dallas is the offense is that, yes, they have one super elite star with CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, they're about an ankle injury from him to being like a pretty middle of the pack offense. So like they will continue to get down there, get Brandon Aubrey kicks in range. So he'll still be a top 2 fantasy kicker in my mind. But when I'm thinking about CeeDee Lamb and how much their season hangs in the balance with a guy who's currently holding out, doesn't have any practice time so far, sometimes injuries happen during that time. So he's an ankle injury away from their offense getting really bad. And I'll be honest with you, when I look at Dak Prescott's line on Underdog at 4,200, 25.5 passing yards, I'm taking the lower on this one. I just don't believe that Dak is going to be that elite of a thrower this year because, like I said, without CeeDee Lamb, he's going to really, really struggle. And I'm not trying to predict injury. We don't want to see that, but it's definitely possible here. And if you agree with me, go to Underdog using that link in the comments below. And when you use code FFN to deposit money, you will get a bonus cash offer of up to $250. So they will throw free money at you. So you could go ahead, put some money on this line right here. And if you want to get in an Underdog draft, you could do that as well. So use code FFN to sign up for Underdog today. Now, at number 3 right here, I've got Cameron Dicker of the Los Angeles Chargers. And Cameron Dicker really was just a really resurgent kicker last year. Not resurgent, he just was a surging young kicker for the Los Angeles Chargers who really had an up and down year offensively, obviously. Like, they started out really good when it was Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert cooking, but obviously they just kept dropping like flies in Los Angeles, and they ended up having a disaster season. Cam Dicker in this year's offense with Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, I have a lot of faith in the guy. Dude's almost perfect on kicks last year, and he's got plenty of leg. So all he really needs is an offense, again, just good enough to get him down there. It's a 40-yard range, 50-yard range. And I think that the Los Angeles Chargers will do exactly that this year, because I don't think they'll be a super high-scoring offense because they kind of lack the weapons, but they're good enough to get you down there because of scheming and because of quarterback play. At number 4, I've got Jake Elliott of the Philadelphia Eagles here. Now, with Jake Elliott, the only thing that really concerns me about Jake Elliott is that the beginning half of last year, he was really, really good. He was like the kicker number 1, kicker number 2 overall throughout like most of the first half of the season. Then Philadelphia really hits that bumpy part of the season last year, and he didn't play as well. He only had 32 field goal attempts. So not a guy who was like super consistent over that back half of the year. And again, since kickers are so dependent on what the offense can do, it makes me a little nervous because I do have a little bit of nerves with the Philadelphia Eagles in particular. Nick Sirianni, I have a feeling that thing could blow up this year. And the rip between him and Jalen Hurts right now, definitely going to be one to watch, because that will affect how often they get down to the red zone if things come to a head. So Jake Elliott, just based on talent alone and based on Philadelphia's offensive talent, gonna keep him inside here, but I will say a little bit nervous about this one. Cairo Santos of the Chicago Bears at number 5 right here. And with Cairo Santos, dude was a top 3 kicker last year. He ended up having a really good end to the season once Chicago started turning it on offensively. And with this year, like, it doesn't, how could you not say it's a better situation? Caleb Williams already looks like a great player in the making. 3 great wide receivers, 2 at the very least, and just a totally different looking offense in general. So their red zone trips are going to be more frequent. In fact, the only thing I might see as a problem is, like, does he get less field goal attempts because they become more efficient towards the red zone? That might be a problem. That's kind of why I have him dropped a couple spots, because I do predict better offensive success for the Bears this year. But still, at this range right here, Cairo Santos is really good. Evan McPherson of the Cincinnati Bengals at number 6, and Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs at number 7. Now, with Evan McPherson, as if Joe Burrow had stayed healthy last year, that dude was going to be a top 10 kicker for sure. He just had a little bit of a rough deal there at the end. And even with Joe Burrow at the beginning of the year, he had a rough stretch of things. Like, he wasn't making a lot of field goal attempts. It was actually a little bit of an off year for Evan McPherson. So I just think that this year, things come together in Cincinnati. I think the offense comes together with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, everybody being there. Hopefully they all stay healthy, of course. That's a major caveat. But I think that Evan McPherson is in line for a good season. I think this guy clearly has the leg. I just think he needs the confidence with the full offensive potential behind him. And then Harrison Butker, one of the best kickers in the league. No doubt about it. Dude only missed 2 kicks last year. He's got a 60-yard long last year on one of the best offenses in football. Again, not always the best thing, but with Harrison Butker in particular, definitely a good thing, because Harrison Butker is in a situation that Kansas City last year didn't always score every time they made it to the red zone. Now, with the new wide receiver this year, maybe they do get in the end zone more often, but still with Harrison Butker, I just think that he's in such a great position, and he's just such an elite kicker, similar to the Jake Elliott effect, except I have more confidence in Kansas City's offense than I do in Philadelphia's. Younghoe Koo at number 8, and Matt Gay at number 9 here. Now, with Younghoe Koo, I think that Younghoe Koo is just in a great situation this year. Like, he was a top 15 kicker last year. That dude struggled, though. Like, Younghoe Koo had some issues. 5 field goals missed last year, and he had plenty of opportunities. So, like, he theoretically should have been a top 10 kicker in fantasy football if he didn't miss so many freaking kicks last year. So, he had a little bit of a rough year, but I think this offense in Atlanta, it's similar to the Chicago Bears, which with Cairo Santos. They're going to give them more opportunities. And I think that they're in a situation in Atlanta with Kirk Cousins, who definitely has been known to have more passing attempts. I think Bijan Robinson is going to carry this offense this year. And I just think that based on what the offensive moves that they've made, they're good, but they're not great. So I do think that Younghoe Koo is going to be in position to do really well this year. It all relies on him, though. Can he correct the issues he had last season? I'll bank on it because we've seen good play from him in the past. And then Matt Gay might feel a little bit low. I know my kicker audience might have some protest on this one because he was really good last year. Indianapolis defense and kicker were really good last year. I think with Matt Gay, the problem I actually see with him is that their offense is going to become more efficient in the red zone. I think that with a full season of Anthony Richardson, this team's going to get more touchdowns than field goals this year. Like with Matt Gay last year, he had a great situation, honestly. Gardner Minshew is not very good, but their offensive coach is so good that he put him in so many good positions to get down to scoreable positions. That's why Matt Gay kicked 41 field goals last year. That's one of the most amount of field goal attempts all year. In fact, it was the second most, just behind Jason Myers of Seattle. So I think that Matt Gay probably sees that field goal number decrease this year just because of the addition of Anthony Richardson. Now, at number 10 and 11, I've got Greg Zuerlein and Jason Myers here. So Greg Zuerlein on the New York Jets just got hosed last year. I mean, like that whole team did. Once Aaron Rodgers goes down, nobody's having fun. Nobody can have fun at that point when you're playing with Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian, whoever they threw out there at quarterback, right? So with the full season of Aaron Rodgers, which obviously is what it all relies on, I think that it's similar to the Atlanta Falcons, where it's like they'll be good enough to get you in position, but I don't think we're going to see MVP level Aaron Rodgers though. So what that will do is leave more opportunities for the field goal kicker, Greg Zuerlein. Now, honestly, my biggest issue with Zuerlein and why he's down lower is I don't think he's as good as he used to be. Like, Zuerlein he's an older player, and his best days are behind him. Like, he missed 3 field goals last year, so he left some points out there on the table, and that's the part that really worries me about him. But I'll end up taking him because I do think he is in a great offensive situation for a fantasy football kicker. And then with Jason Myers here, Jason Myers was a stud last year. Jason Myers, really didn't start out very great, but he ended up as the kicker number 3. And again, the reason he's down here is because of the 7 missed field goal attempts. 7 missed field goals last year. That's not good. That's not good at all. Do you recover from missing 7 field goals? It can be done, but I don't think that the Seattle offense really has much margin for error. I know a lot of people are higher on the Seattle offense with Ryan Grubb at offensive coordinator. I'm really not super convinced. We don't really know whether he's going to work or not. I want him to work. I have Jackson Smith-Njigba in plenty places, but I don't have a ton of confidence. So does he end up kicking 42 field goals again this year, or is it more in the 32 range? If it's in the 32 range and he doesn't improve his accuracy, this is going to be not very good. So I'll give Jason Myers top 12 just because he was last year, but I do have my concerns here. And then rounding it out at number 12, Will Lutz of the Denver Broncos here. This is really just me kind of staking my ground in the Denver Broncos offense this year. I think they're a big-time sleeper offense. I actually really do think that Bo Nix will start, and they will actually be a lot more efficient than people give them credit for. Again, what they lack is the weapons. So they won't get in the end zone as consistently as they'll get down there in the red zone. So they'll have opportunities to kick field goals with Will Lutz. And Will Lutz actually went through a stretch last year when he was pretty good in fantasy football. He only finished as the kicker 22, but he had a couple week stretch where he was really, really playing well. So I think that with this offense, I can easily see him getting 40 field goal attempts this year, and it'll raise his fantasy points per game by at least a point, and I would be willing to venture to bet he could raise it probably closer to 1.5 points, and that's going to make a big difference in him being a top 12 kicker versus maybe having the potential to be a top 6 kicker. So let me know what you think of the kicker rankings in the comments below, and if you want to see the top 12 defense rankings for 2024, click on this video right here.